Between grade 12 and going to McGill to start university in 1958, I stayed in Edmonton, and I worked that summer for the what was Edmonton's largest law firm, Milner Steer. And I had the lowest job in the place. I was the assistant to the courthouse and land titles runner, which gave me a little experience in, as a teenager, looking at land titles documents, certificates of title, doing a search at the land titles office and so on. But one day, one of the partners of the firm, I think Mr. Massey, asked me to take the bus out to west of 149th Street and report to him on the progress of construction of a supermarket being built just west of 149th Street, just a bit south of Stony Plain Road. And I think it was Loblaws, but I'm not sure of the name. And I think he was probably acting for the mortgage company. And I think probably the periodic advances of the funds being borrowed depended on the state of construction. So I took the bus out there, had a look, and came back and reported to him, and that was satisfactory. What I told him about the state of construction was what he'd expected. Now, the location was interesting because, of course, the Quesnel, going upstream or west along the MacKinnon Ravine, it didn't have that name then, but it's the MacKinnon Ravine now. You got to 149th Street, and 149th Street and Stony Plain Road went through in all four directions. But then southwest of that corner, the ravine was very much there. And the ravine didn't extend all the way to 100th Avenue, but most of the way. And so Loblaws was being built right on the north side of 100th Avenue, and I think it was to have a shopping center in front of it, in other words, on the north side of it. But between there and Stony Plain Road was just ravine. And later on it was filled in, and that's how we got the Safeway and London Drugs and that sort of thing. And you will have noticed that about 2 years ago, part of that filled in portion suddenly of their parking lot suddenly collapsed. So I don't know whether that was improper fill the first time or whether some water main burst. I don't know.
What would they have filled it in with?
I don't know, but when there's construction, there's often a lot of waste. As I say, a developer will often take the topsoil off and store it somewhere. And then every time you dig a basement, what used to be the contents of the basement is no good to anybody. It's clay or something. And so I think contractors are probably quite happy to supply fill for a ravine or whatever.
Okay, that's good to know. Very good to know. So you also mentioned that the MacKinnon Ravine did extend further beyond
yes.
149.
Now, back when I was a child, I obviously knew there was a ravine just west of 149th. Beyond that, I don't think I knew, but in my walks in west of 149th Street, I have noticed that you can pick up the upper limits of the ravine again. And it's not continuous. But I remember a few years ago, not that long ago, walking somewhere west of 149th and somewhere north of Stony Plain Road, but not very far off either. And without warning, all of a sudden, I look at somebody's front yard, and by George, it's the upper remnants of the ravine there. And again, it was the west side of one of the streets, and I don't remember how close to the avenue it was. I can't tell you more. Now, it would have been pretty easy for the person to fill it in. So it may not look that way now, but a few years ago it was there. Mm-hmm. And you showed me a photograph of from 1949 of widening Stony Plain Road somewhere around 151st Street. So that all ties together. Now, I have another memory, which I'm not quite sure of the timing of. I can remember that the ravine immediately south of Stony Plain Road and west of 149th Street was not filled in yet. And the bank, there was a bank sloping down just at the south side of 149th Street, presumably from fill of earlier filling in Stony Plain Road. And there on stilts was a small structure. And it was a sharpening shop of some sort. Now, I am not sure, but I haven't seen it myself. I remember some of the old locations where Barrel Taxi used to be, but I was under the impression that at one point Barrel Taxi's dispatch had been there. But, and of course, for a long time, Barrel Taxi was beside just south of the bus terminal, 158th and maybe it's 100th Avenue, blocks out of the Stony Plain Road anyway. And I'm not sure where Barrel Taxi started, but my mother always indicated it used to be near 124th Street and 102nd Avenue. And I haven't been able to confirm that, but and the story also was that odd name came from the owner Barry, B-A-R-I-L, which of course an English-speaking person would pronounce Barrel. And I do know that around 1947 there was somebody who ran a taxi and he was called Barry, but that's the most I can do for you.